So a lot of people have been asking, messaging me and wanting to know what my kind of opinion is on Sephiroth going into Remake Part 2, Ever Crisis, First Soldier, whatever this next game is going to be called, right? I did a Sephiroth video, I think last fall or last summer, talking about it, but I'll kind of revisit it for you all, those who didn't see it and those who don't want to go dig through all those old videos. And plus, I kind of refined it a little bit, thinking about kind of where he's going, where the character's going, and what he might be doing currently in the storyline. I think the second game is really going to be getting into Sephiroth really crafting and carrying out his plan, like the plan to get the black materia, the plan to summon Meteor, the plan from Final Fantasy VII, the original Final Fantasy VII. That plan, he's going to be trying to carry it out now, right? But there's going to be a lot of little subtleties, a lot of like other little things going on in the story. They're going to add a lot of stuff because Final Fantasy VII, the original Final Fantasy VII, I think the reason it popped off the way, one of the reasons it popped off the way it did back in 97, 98, the end of the 90s pretty much, because people were playing this game for a couple of years. They were just hearing about it, and up until like, you know, Final Fantasy IX coming out, people were still like, oh, I just got Final Fantasy VII. So I think the reason that kind of popped off the way it did was because more than any Square Enix title they had made before, or Squaresoft at the time, title they had made before, Final Fantasy VII was written and produced and directed in a way to not just be a great JRPG, right? It was produced in a very cinematic way. The game was presented very cinematically, and it had a lot, had a lot of people talking. I remember at the time, I was like, "Oh, could this could be a movie?" I'm like, "No, don't ever do a movie of it because it's way too big." But I think they're taking those elements and they're using some of those elements in that thought process of a cinematic storytelling experience to tell and flesh out a lot of the characters in Final Fantasy VII. Remake really put that on display. It really put it under kind of a microscope and let you see what they were doing. If you have ever written a script for a live production or an animation production or any kind of scripting at all, a comic book, if you have ever worked on a production like that, if you've ever written, I've written scripts for commercials before, I've written scripts for other types of things. The way the dialogue and characters are presented in the story, the way things move, the way things are edited, the way the story flows, it was very, very cinematic. And I think Sephiroth in Game 2 is going to be playing into a lot of that. I think they're going to use elements from compilation to flesh out Sephiroth more, because up to this point, all Sephiroth has really ever been, and to Square's credit and Nojima for writing him this way, the omnipotent god who feels like it is his birthright, or this omnipotent demigod who it's his birthright to rule the world, or like have the world be his plaything, or lord over the planet. It's his birthright, right? He's not like the type of villain who like take an Aizen from Bleach, like take Sosuke Aizen from Bleach, who like seems to always know what's happening, seems to always be one step ahead, not because it's his birthright, but because he is super intelligent. Like Sephiroth does things in Final Fantasy VII that makes him come off as not that he's dumb. He's not dumb, but he's not all-seeing, right? In Final Fantasy VII Remake, he seems to be all-seeing and claiming it's his birthright, or operating like it's his birthright to have things go his way, correct? So, how did we get from there to here? Okay, real quick, the video I did last fall, or summer, or whenever it was, talked about, it was called The Three Faces of Sephiroth, and I had this theory that obviously one Sephiroth is in Cloud's mind, right, communicating with him. The other Sephiroth is composed of the Whispers, right, composed of Sephiroth's will working with the Whispers from within the planet, and then the third Sephiroth is the one that's being the S-type research specimens, right? The guys in the black cloaks. turning into Sephiroth. That's the three faces of Sephiroth, in my opinion. That's what I think is happening, right? I don't think there's numerous Sephiroths from different times. I think you've got Sephiroth, the main essence of Sephiroth, which is the same one that's manipulating the Whispers and the planet, and it's the one coming to Cloud in visions when nobody else can see Sephiroth and Cloud's talking to Sephiroth. That's all in his head. That's his connection with Sephiroth. Sephiroth and Cloud have a connection, and I think it's going to go deeper than just, oh, Sephiroth or Cloud has the last remaining, you know, pure S Genova type cells in his body. I think it's going to be something a little more than that. I'm not really, I don't want to speculate on it just yet because I haven't really given a whole lot of thought to it, but I think it's going to be deeper than that. And then you've got the Sephiroth you battle at the end of the game, at the end of Remake, right? And he's like composed of whispers. He like throws whispers energy at you and all this. He dissolves into whispers. And then, but I think that's the Sephiroth, the prime Sephiroth, the one in Cloud's head, manipulating them, right? Because he's got that shot at the end where he smiles and Cloud comes down after him with a sword, and when the impact happens, it's just a bunch of whisper energy going everywhere, right? And then Cloud is pulled mentally into that dimension, into his mind, to talk with Sephiroth, and Sephiroth divulges kind of vaguely what his plan is, right? And then, of course, you've got the scenes with the research specimens turning into Sephiroth, all that kind of deal. So, in Game 2, armed with all of that knowledge, right? Armed with all of that knowledge, I think in Game 2, we're going to start seeing more human elements of Sephiroth arise, right? I think we're going to start seeing things we haven't seen from him before. That Square Enix, I think with this first Soldier story, game, movie, whatever it's going to be, I think they are giving us a peek behind the curtain. They did it a little bit with Crisis Core, right? Some of the coolest parts of Crisis Core was when you got to see Sephiroth just being a dude, just being himself, right? Before he takes the wagon 50 miles an hour off of the crazy cliff, right? Before he drives fully off the crazy cliff, we get to see Sephiroth in his element, doing his thing, being himself, around his buddies, around his comrades. And I think they are going to use that story to flesh out Sephiroth a lot more, right? I think we're going to see little breadcrumbs throughout his life that kind of like have a foretelling, like, oh, you know, foretelling of doom. Oh, man, this guy, watch out for him. He's good right now, but watch out. Like, he might have like a little temper tantrum when he's younger. He might just, you know, say some crazy stuff, right? Oh, look out, watch out, you know. I think they're going to use the compilation characters, and I'm not going to go into Genesis in this video, but characters like him, like, right? That will be their role in Remake moving forward. Their biggest role in Remake moving forward is to make Sephiroth, to humanize him, and to make him more relatable. Not because they're going to redeem him. He's still the big bad. He is still evil. He is still horrible, evil, beyond saving, right? Remember that. The thing with him wanting to manipulate Cloud, they are connected in some way. Sephiroth, I feel like Sephiroth can't exist without Cloud now, mainly because he has the last pure cells within him. Cloud does. And I think something about Cloud will keep those cells from becoming impure, right? Becoming like whatever the process is when the Genova cells start to take over the body and the cellular degradation, right? Whatever it is that makes that happen, I think Cloud will be immune to it. I think that's why he's going to be so special. He will be immune to cellular degradation. He won't have that happening for some reason, right? Maybe it's like I said before in another video. Maybe he is some sort of descendant of the Cetra as well. Not as pure blood as Aerith, but he might have it in him. Because those Cetra, it showed in the scene within Shinra Tower, some of them looked like they could be Cloud's family. Like they could be his mommy, his aunt, his uncle, his daddy. Some of them looked like they could have been his family. I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there. That's all speculation. And I might be way off on that. But something to do with Cloud will make him immune to the cellular degradation, I feel. Now, he does get geostigma in Advent Children. He does get sick. He did get the Mako poisoning, and he was sick and all that kind of stuff. Sephiroth can remain in this world as long as Cloud lives. And I think that will be a big part of what Sephiroth is doing in Game 2. Because in Game number 2, we're going to see, I think we're going to see them starting the path of going toward the Temple of the Ancients. They have to do the Temple of the Ancients to get the Black Materia. That has not changed. The Temple of the Ancients will become the Black Materia. The Black Materia is needed to summon Meteor. That will not change. Holy will be needed to combat Meteor. Sephiroth knows all that stuff has to happen, but now, with the whispers out with the planet not interfering with his plan, he feels like he has already won. I think that will be his undoing. I think it's a hubris thing, right? Sephiroth is a character who is built on stacks and stacks and blocks and levels of hubris, right? It's his birthright to run everything. That has not changed about him. He has seen what he needs to change. He knows things, but that character has not changed. He will still feel that way. He still has his ties to Mother, Jenova. He still has that going on. Any characters like Genesis, even some out-of-the-way thing if Angeal were to be in the story, or anything Hojo does or says to Sephiroth, anything Aerith can tell Sephiroth, anything they can use to give you a peek behind the curtain at Sephiroth, who he was and how he got to where he is, they're going to use that because they want you, again, going back to the cinematic thing that I said, all the great cinematic villains have like a dose of humanity to them, like a dose of, you look at them and you go, you know what, I can't get on board with that. I can't get on board with this genocide thing you're doing, but I see how you got there. I understand how you got there, okay? It's tragic. I think they want to paint Sephiroth as a tragic character. A fallen knight. A true fallen knight story is a tragedy. Look at Darth Vader, right? Look at Darth Vader and the path of Anakin Skywalker, the path to the dark side. I think they could be doing something similar with Sephiroth. Now, I don't think Sephiroth gets redeemed. I think he just has to be beaten. He has to be beaten and gotten rid of. But it also poses another big question. This is the thing where I was like, I don't know. I haven't given a lot of thought to this yet. I need to think about it a little bit. What if... I'm going to say, Ralph, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this. If this is the path they're going to go, I'm not a fan of it. So I don't think they're going this way. But if they do, what if there is something to do with having to redeem Sephiroth, right? To change his ways, to make him see another path. Otherwise, Cloud will have to die at some point for Sephiroth to stop coming back, right? Now, at some point, Cloud will die. We don't know if he'll live to be 70 or 80 or the high wind will crash into a mountain or something. I mean, we don't know, He's out taking the bike for a ride one day and he hits a slippery path and whatever, I mean, we don't know how long Cloud will live in the story. But I think it's pretty evident that as long as Cloud's around, Sephiroth can always come back. The two are tied. The two are tied so closely together. And something about the cells in Cloud helps the Jenova cells that can reanimate and recreate Sephiroth in the different beings, right? To return. And whatever they do with that, I don't know. But if you redeem Sephiroth, then it's over, right? If you redeem him, he's like, you know what? I was a jerk. I was a piece of crap. I'm going to go on. I'm just going to pass on into the live stream willingly, whatever. Then it's all good, right? But I don't like that because I like that Sephiroth is an evil villain. I like that he brings that darkness to the story, right? All the great Final Fantasy villains bring a heavy darkness to the narrative, right? It's like always a world, an impending doom for the world type scenario with the great Final Fantasy villains. And who greater than Sephiroth, who wanted to basically end the universe? That might still be what he's doing in Remake. Because remember, in Final Fantasy VII, or the original, he says, I want to use this, well, in Advent Children he says it, but he still refers to it in 7, use this planet as a vessel to travel the cosmos, just as my mother did long ago. His ultimate plan is to destroy the universe, right? He wants to use Gaia as like a big mothership to go around and destroy other worlds, to lord over other worlds. Because for no other reason than that's what his mom did, and that is his right. So I don't think you need to redeem Sephiroth. He needs to be evil. He needs to be justly and fully dark and evil. There needs to be no question that he's got to go at the end of the story. That's why we love him. That's why we love the character, right? That is why we love that character. Not because we want to be him or anything, because we want to beat him. And he's so good at making you want to beat him, you know? He in the OG, look, spoilers, but I'm not going to do spoilers anymore. If you haven't played OG 7 at this point, I don't know what to tell you. You know, you're going to get spoilers, and you're going to get spoilers on this channel if you haven't played OG 7 at this point. If you haven't played Remake at this point and you're watching my videos, you're still going to get spoilers. That game's been out for almost a year now. He takes Aerith away. He takes Cloud's hometown away. He takes Tifa's father away. He takes so much away. And he is a representative. He represents Shinra as well, who took away Barrett's family and all of his loved ones, right? Who Shinra and Sephiroth have made the world an absolute disaster, right? An absolute disaster. And at the core of it now, at the core of this crisis for the planet, Sephiroth has risen to such a prominence to where nothing can stop him from carrying out his plan. He is evil. He's got to go. He's one of the greatest bad guys ever written, just because, not because of just him, but because of the circumstances that he brings to the story. That's one of the greatest stories ever written, in my opinion. Final Fantasy VII. And it was the first time I ever played a game where I was like, this is one of the greatest stories I've ever seen. You know? And he is the central villain of that. You can't change that. I feel like you can't change that. If they do a redemption kind of story with him in Game 2, I mean, I'm always open to see where something goes, right? I feel like anything can be made, any idea can be made good if the execution is really good, right? If the execution is not excellent, if you do something like that, that execution has to be flawless for that to work, for me personally. For a lot of you, you might want to see that. That's cool. That's exactly what you want to see. Awesome. Not what I want to see, right? We're all open to our opinions. We're all open to what we want to see. This is my opinion. This is what I think. Game number 2, involving Sephiroth. We're going to see a good bit of dialogue, I think, between Aerith and Sephiroth. I think we're going to see a lot of mental dialogue between Cloud and Sephiroth. I think we're going to see dark-cloaked guys turn into Sephiroth. Like, countless S specimens turning into Sephiroth and coming and treating with Cloud and Aerith and everybody. And some of those will be boss battles. They'll turn into boss battles. They'll turn into like some form of Genova or whatever when the connection is lost to Sephiroth. Because see, when Sephiroth activates those clones and turns into them, it activates all that junk inside of them. And then they can't go back to just really being them. They have to die or turn into some nasty form of Genova and then die, or just turn into black soot or whatever, you know? I think we're going to see a lot, and I'm really excited about that. Seeing a lot of those S-clones turn into Sephiroth, interacting with the party, and then we're also going to have those scenes where Sephiroth comes to Cloud via their Bluetooth link, right? They're linked. Only the two of them. You don't see Sephiroth coming to other characters in their mind, right? Only Cloud. And they've had opportunities to do it. It's not like, oh, we just haven't done it yet. They had opportunities to do it, and they didn't do it with certain characters. They had plenty of opportunities to do it with Aerith and Sephiroth, right? Those two know who each other are, and they have never spoken. So, and we've already covered that. But anyway, Sephiroth needs to stay justly and correctly evil. I think we're going to get a lot of sympathetic storytelling for him. We're going to see a true tragedy unfold through the first soldier, whatever that's going to be, going forward, the past characters that they've used. Even Kunsel. We could see Kunsel come in. He's had interactions with Sephiroth, I think, in Crisis Core. He was ex-soldier. He saw all that happen. You know, he's got to be like a commander or something at this point. You know, he's still around because we heard him referenced in the Shinra Tower. So he's still around. He's got to be like higher up you know, lieutenant, a commander, or something, you know. Genesis, even, and I hope they don't go Angeal, because I think he had a perfect write-off. He was written off perfectly in Crisis Core. I think that character served its purpose. He was the surly Obi-Wan Kenobi for Zack's Luke Skywalker, right? He even passed on the sword to Zack. So, I mean, that we've got Zack coming in Game 2. Zack will know Sephiroth. Who knows Sephiroth better that exists currently in the timeline that we know now exists than Zack? It's heavily speculated that Genesis is going to be in the game. He might not. We haven't seen anything. It's heavily speculated, especially by me. Those two characters right there know Sephiroth better than anybody currently existing in the story, correct? Cloud knows him pretty good, but Cloud is not right in the head right now. So they're going to use these characters and use all this compilation stuff and more stuff they've written. They're going to create Sephiroth as a sympathetic character, I feel like, going forward, to make his fall, his tragedy, where he's at now, seem even more cinematic, even more grandiose in scope, right? Now, you don't redeem him, I don't think. He's still evil, he's gone, he's changed. He's not changing back, I don't think. But I think it adds weight, it adds gravity to the story, which is already a great story. And I think that's the direction they're going. I think that's what they're going to do with Sephiroth. I think that's why they're going to introduce all these other characters. They're doing all this stuff to really pump up the tragedy of Sephiroth, right? They're doing all this stuff instead of just finding old files laying around and reading a bunch of stuff or whatever. You're going to hear it told through these characters that they are now going to bring back. You're going to see flashbacks with Zack and Sephiroth on mission. You're going to play as Sephiroth at some point, I feel like, in Game 2 or Game 3, in a flashback from Zack. I think that's why they're bringing Zack back. Zack back, Zack. I think that's why they're bringing Zack back. So they can use him as a narrative tool to do a lot of that with Sephiroth. I think it's going to be great. The more I think about it, the more I speculate on it, the more I jot down little ideas, and I'm like, oh, that'd be great. Oh, that'd be cool. So what do you all think? I know this video ran a little bit long, but I wanted to get all my thoughts on the table for that. And there's probably still a few things I didn't think to write down that if I do, I'll do another video on sometime. Y'all can check that out too. But if you like the video, throw a like on there, subscribe to the channel. Final Fantasy VII Remake theory videos dropping every Wednesday from now on. Every single Wednesday. I've got a few in the can scheduled to come out. If I build up enough of them, I'll release like 2 a week or something like that. But for now, that's what we'll be doing, and going forward, that will be the plan. So thank you all so much. Appreciate you all. If you all have not followed me on social media, right here, Kaufman20XX. We talk about stuff on Twitter. I'm getting more active on Instagram again, so follow me on there. Twitch.tv/Ray Kaufman over here. I'm streaming the Resident Evil games right now. We're leading up to the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil, which is super dope. So check that out. And you all have a great night. Keep rocking. Be good to each other. Stay safe out there. And I will see you all when I see you.